Shaftesbury Town Council meets this evening to decide how much extra they'll ask households to pay through the town share of council tax, known as the Precept. Last year, councillors set out a long-term plan for how that figure would rise over several years, although they can only legally vote on 1 year at a time. Under the approach agreed last year, the council approved a 25% increase for this current financial year. The proposal being debated on Tuesday night is a further rise of 12% for the year from April. Beyond that, smaller increases are pencilled in, 8% in the year after that, followed by a 5% rise in the year from April 2028. Taken together, the town councils agreed this tapered approach, meaning the local share of the council tax will have gone up by just under 59% over 5 years. So what does the money actually pay for?
If council goes for the 12% rise, it will mean they'll receive £875,000 council tax income from Shaftesbury ratepayers. The biggest share of the council tax will go on staff salaries. That's £322,000. The grounds contract, looking after parks and open spaces, is outsourced and will cost just under £170,000. And apart from day-to-day running costs, there are some projects the council hopes to deliver before the next elections. At a public budget meeting in December, the Town Council said its priorities over the next 3 years include consultation over the future management of traffic on the High Street and town centre streets, renovating the youth club, improving the surface of Park Walk, renovating the town hall, upgrading benches and street furniture, improving the Winkham Play Park, and carrying out a feasibility study into improving the Lido.
Councillor Andy Hollingshead told Alfred that asking residents to pay more is always difficult, particularly after a sizable increase last year.
People say to us they want improved public services, they want improved playgrounds, they want improved this, that and the other, and they're absolutely right. But it needs to be paid for.
He says the figures need to be seen in context with what other North Dorset towns pay.
Our council tax at the moment is just under £220 a year for a Band D house. Now, if you compare that to our neighbours, the closest to us is Blandford at £254, Sturminster's £272. So we are somewhere way away from that level. And without money, we aren't able to do the jobs and services that people want us to do.
A unitary authority, like Dorset Council, must hold a public referendum if it proposes an increase of more than 5%. But town and parish councils, like Shaftesbury Town Council, are not subject to that rule. So increases in the town council precept don't trigger that vote, regardless of the percentage.
What we ask for is minuscule when compared to the local authority, Dorset Council. We work very hard to get grants from local government and national government and from other places to help offset the costs. But fundamentally, we need the revenue coming in from the council tax.
It's not a given the full council will back the 12% recommendation.
We haven't set the budget yet, and it may be 12%, it may be less, it may be more.
Councillors will discuss the first outcomes of a consultant staffing review commissioned last autumn, at a time when the town hall was operating without a permanent town clerk and senior staff were carrying extra responsibilities. One of the central questions raised by the report is timing. Should councillors press ahead with structural and staffing changes now, or wait until a new town clerk is appointed and able to lead that work?
In an ideal world, the town clerk would be appointed now and would be leading on this. We don't know how long it will take to recruit. It's a difficult environment for recruiting town clerks at the moment, and it has been for a while. And this is why we're getting the advice to look outside of the people who've had previous experience of town clerk. But I think we will be focusing on someone who has had a town clerk background. We're fishing in a small pool, and Blandford is also recruiting for a town clerk. If we're fortunate and we can recruit the right person soon and they're in post, then yes, they will be leading on a lot of this. But in the meantime, there's work we can get on and do, for example, around the Lido and things that don't necessarily need the town clerk to be here.
So with the recruiting of a town clerk then, are you only going to look at somebody who has been a town clerk, who has the experience? Because you did appoint a non-town clerk last time. It didn't work out, did it?
there was no reason it shouldn't have done, because the person we recruited was very experienced in her field. She had been in planning in local authorities, so had worked with councillors, had worked in that environment, understood the environment, but it wasn't for her. In an ideal world, yes, we'll be recruiting an experienced town clerk, but we will be prepared to look at anybody who has the relevant qualifications and suitable experience that would make them an attractive candidate.
You've set aside about £8,000 in the budget for this process.
The decision we've taken as a council is that we are going to use the services of the consultancy to help attract some great candidates, but then it will be the panel of councillors who will choose.
There'll be a package for relocation. Is that? I know, obviously, it was quite controversial because of the sum involved with Dorset Council's chief executive's relocation package and offers to pay her mortgage for a time until she got on her feet, as it were. Here, you're doing that as well for a shorter period, but there will be a sum potentially paid if somebody needs to relocate.
Is not by any means as generous as a chief executive of a local authority. Those individuals are on six-figure salaries and they get a package commensurate with that. Same with other public sector services and private sector sort of chief execs. But no, we felt that it was appropriate to offer some support. If someone is having to, wants to work for Shaftesbury and they're the right person and they're going to be moving some distance, I think it's absolutely right. And as a council, we felt the same to provide some support to help that individual move down.
The recommendation is to create 3 new staff positions. So do you think that's going to be a hard sell to the electorate? Because some people feel that it's just expanding the number of people without increasing the amount of service.
People can take a simplistic look at that. The report does say that our staff wages are about average for a town of our size. And the 3 posts we're talking about is essentially an admin assistant, a assistant Lido manager and an assistant town ranger, someone who will, help keep our toilets clean and our bins empty. The assistant Lido manager is, to my mind, quite essential because the Lido is becoming more and more popular and being used more and more. Probably a couple of years since we started the cold weather swimming, that's taken off exponentially, as has nighttime swimming. The pool is being used all year round now. Now, when I first elected to council, it was only being used during the summer months. We've got this extra work going on and extra income streams and so on and so forth. So it does seem appropriate that we have someone in that post. But an admin assistant, the report recognises that the staff we have are under pressure to deliver all the work we're doing. Because again, this council is a go-ahead council. We do a lot of work here and there's a lot of things going on. Ampits Hub, for instance, looking at developing the play parks. There's a whole host of work which is also laid out in our strategic plan. And we need people to help deliver on that work because this town council is about delivering excellent services for Shaftesbury and make Shaftesbury a great place for people to live and work in. And we can't do that on a shoestring.
You're doing more stuff, granted, with the Mampits project, but you do have 2 consultants working on that project. Why are you bringing all these extra people in? What are they doing all day?
The assistant Lido manager will help delivering the Lido services, which are expanding. The assistant town ranger, which will be caretaker, will be helping keeping our toilets clean, our benches clean, our bins empty. And the admin assistant will be helping with the admin that comes in, because there is a lot of work that is generated through the town council, not just by councillors and committees, but also members of the public writing in, asking questions, needing help. So all this is going on in the background, and it needs people to be able to deliver those services. I mean, what we don't want is people phoning up with an urgent question, and then there's nobody to deal with it for a week or two. On the separate point of the consultants of the Mampits, we were talking about sort of specialist people who are qualified in that work. We don't have those skills within the town council. We needed to buy them in.
But the Mampits project will be done in about a year, won't it? Is the plan just to have these extra staff in the town council until that's done, or will they continue there?
No, they will continue there because these extra staff aren't required because of the Mampits project. These are required anyway to be able to deliver the services that the town the town wants us to deliver.
One of the posts has been queried by a former councillor is the communications officer role. Now that's a role which will attract a higher salary under the recommendation, and on local government banding it's going to be broadly, it seems, around 30 grand a year, albeit 15 hours a week, so not a full-time position. It's been questioned when you've got organisations like Carlink who've been struggling to get funding. Eventually they got some funding. That's a lot of money going out on a role that is PR for the council, putting things on Facebook.
It helps that we are communicating outwards. In the past, there used to be local papers that would report on these. There are very few communication outlets around, but we can't rely on you to represent the town council and what we're doing.
Well, there's also the Blackmore Vale and the New Valley News as well, and we should mention them.
The Shaftesbury News tends to be buried away within those. So I think I personally think it's really important that we have someone who can communicate to the town. Frankly, all modern organisations these days do have communications teams because we all recognise the importance of actually getting that information out to the public.
With an increased number of staff proposed, 3 more people, a lot more expenditure, edging towards a £1 million budget, another 12% from local ratepayers, can you hand on heart say things will be better for Shaftesbury ratepayers with a service delivered by the Town Council in a year's time?
Yes. We are determined to deliver the best services for the people of Shaftesbury. We have some excellent staff. The report does recognise the excellent management of our assets and the excellent, the way we do deliver services for